What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing? Well, this is the first ever Catalyst Lunchtime live stream, so it's kind of exciting to be on here doing this. Just a few things that we're going to do with this live stream, just so you kind of understand what it is that we're doing with this. This is just a way for us to communicate with you guys. With the whole COVID thing, I know there's still a lot of people that aren't able to go to church yet. There's also just this fact that we're not getting together as much for events and all those kinds of things. So it's just another chance for us to communicate with you and for you to communicate with us. So feel free at any point during the live stream to comment, leave any messages you want, ask any questions you want. We're going to do some announcements real quick up front, some things that are going on with the church that we want you to know about. And then I'm going to be bringing in Rob Harlemert here in just a minute, and the two of us are going to talk a little bit about jealousy, this topic that we talked about this past week in our sermon. And so first off, some big announcements coming up. There's a couple cool events that are getting ready to happen. We've got a Thanksgiving offering coming up November 22nd. That's a big deal because we moved into a 100-year-old building when we came to Catalyst. And by moving into a 100-year-old building, that meant that we had 100-year-old building problems, and we were going to have to do whatever it took to keep up this building. And so this year's Thanksgiving offering is going to go towards getting the building up to code, basically. We're going to work on fixing the entrance doors. Our doors aren't made with push bars, which is kind of a big deal for public buildings, and so we've got to get that done. We've got to get the electric updated. We've got to get plexiglass on these stained glass windows. They're old, like they're just really old windows, and there's a lot of cracks and things like that in them. They're not good at insulating the building for heating and air, and because of all that, it's just one of those things where if we don't do something to protect them, they're going to pretty much fall apart on us, and we don't want that because they're a beautiful part of our church. And it will also allow us to have the opportunity to just be able to heat and cool the building much more efficiently. Also, we've got an air conditioning compressor that's been out for a long time, and that needs to get fixed. As a matter of fact, most people don't know this, but for the past 5 years, there has been no heating or air in any of our offices at the church. So we've had space heaters and little box fans in our offices for the past couple of years. So it'll be nice to get that fixed finally and actually have heating and air. Also, Catalyst Thanksgiving Night of Worship. This has become a tradition at Catalyst over the last several years, and we want to keep that up this year. So that is going to be November 24th at 7 p.m. We're hoping that COVID restrictions will lift and that we'll have the opportunity to have that live, but if we don't, we will definitely have it online. A few things that we need at the church. We're needing some nursery workers. We have very fertile parents at Catalyst. A lot of parents are having kids, and we just have a lot of babies. And we need a lot of people that are willing to come back and hold those babies. And you'll be right here in the same building as the worship service. We actually have the worship service pumped into that back room, so you guys would be able to listen to the sermon and still feel like you're part of the service, but at the same time getting old, cute little babies. So, I mean, it's such a good deal for everybody. Another thing, we need tech team members. We need people that like to push buttons, play with fancy equipment, and who want to help make Sunday mornings an amazing experience for anybody who walks through the doors. So if you are somebody who is into any of that, please contact me. You can contact me at jkelly@catalystchristian.net, or you can get a hold of me on Facebook. You can look me up on there. Or if you are on Instagram, you can contact me at John Kelly. I actually got that early on. Instagram first came out, and somehow I ended up getting my name, which is kind of cool. So now that all that stuff is done and we're kind of finished with the housekeeping, I guess you could say, want to talk a little bit about the message this past week. We just finished up a series called The Opposition Within, and it's been a fantastic series. And this past week, we had the opportunity to talk a little bit about the topic of jealousy. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Rob Harlemert in right now so you guys can talk to him as well. And the two of us are going to discuss that a little bit. What's up, Rob?
Hey, how's it going?
Going good, man. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Awesome. Awesome. So real cool thing that you did this week. You did a little post online about about the sermon this past week
Yeah,
and how much you appreciated what Dave had to say. Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we get into the rest of this?
yeah, sure. So I did a post afterwards. I took a snippet of the ending of Dave's message, and I was running a camera, and he said something really cool. And here at Catalyst, we do this all the time, and but we always encourage each other on staff. We spend Mondays encouraging each other. Even in our sermons, we always talk about how each other's very good at their job because we do believe that we're all uh, doing the best that we can. And I believe Dave is an incredible preacher. I believe John Kelly is incredible at his job with the tech ministry. Even when he was in worship ministry, I'd always say how great he was doing, and Jenny's doing a fantastic job at children's ministry.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to see him talk about leadership in the way that he did. He talked about jealousy and how he was talking to one of his buddies in ministry, and he was his church is doing a little better than Catalyst just on numbers wise. And he said, "Well, good. I'm glad that your church is doing. Praise God, you're doing so well." And then he decided that he is no longer going to do that, and that a healthy person in ministry um, wants the best for his children, wants the best for their children, wants the best for their people. That it doesn't matter if they're doing well. So I posted that because it was just really cool that Dave took the time to share that the church that we're going to plant in September is he wants it to do better than Catalyst. He doesn't want it to fail. He doesn't want it to be just under Catalyst where he can say, the mother church is always better. He doesn't want that. He wants it to be so much more significant. And I wanted to share with the rest of the world, one, how good of a leader both Dave and John are, and how they encouraged me over the years, how there was no pride involved. If I wanted to learn something, they would take the time to teach me about worship, about preaching, about how to put together a worship service, how to learn about tech, how to do soundboard stuff, and how to do lights. All this stuff is crazy, and I'm very thankful for all that they've done for me over the years. Um, and it was really cool. And this shows how awesome Catalyst is. And I'm going to brag on this church for a second. I had messages from my buddies that are in ministry and people who are in leadership, and it said, "I am so jealous of the people that you get to work with." And I put at the end of my little comment, I said, "Find you a leader like John and Dave because you won't regret it." So that just meant a lot to me, and what Catalyst has done for me as a leader over the years. And
That's really cool. That's really cool. I know we've appreciated having you on staff, and I will go into deep mourning when you leave. I'm happy for you. Trust me. I'm 100% happy for you, but I am definitely going to go into deep mourning. My wife may have to comfort me as I lay in fetal position in my house crying because Rob is going elsewhere.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, man, we are excited for you. And I remember when you posted that video, Dave and I had talked the day before about some highlights of the sermon, things that we thought would be really good. And neither one of us really thought about that too much because for he and I, we have talked like that for a while. We've just said, we're just gonna celebrate it. Yeah. We're just gonna celebrate what's going on. And we're not worried about whether or not you take people from our church with you. We're not worried about whether or not you give us props, or you make sure you talk about how great Catalyst was, or this some kind of weird competition where if you get bigger than us, we're going to feel like left out. There was never any of that for us. Yeah. And so we've always wanted to see you succeed. And I know you're going to. I would be worried for Southland more than I'd be worried for us. Okay. So I'm just playing. I do want to throw up here, though, Adam Tipton did leave a comment that we need drummers and musicians because you're taking some with you when you go to the church plant. So if you're a musician or a singer, or you just really like music and you'd like to learn how to be a musician or a singer, shoot us something. Let us know. Real quick, there was a verse that came to mind for me when I was working on the community group questions for this. And the verse that came up for me was from Proverbs 14:30. It said, "A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." Um, I know people that struggle with jealousy badly,
Mm-hmm.
really badly, and they're just miserable. And it leads into every part of their life. It's not one of those things where they're just jealous about this one thing, but everything else is good. It seems like once you become jealous over one thing, it tends to bleed into everything else.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to over the years that just lose their mind because so and so's making more money, or so and so just bought a new house. I can't believe they've got a house like that, or a new car, or whatever it is. Um, it's so easy to become jealous, and it's so easy for that jealousy to kind of lead.
Yeah.
I know Dave has made the statement several times that emotions are great followers, but horrible leaders. And I think jealousy is a very emotional thing for people. Um, how have you seen jealousy just kind of tear people up over the years?
Yeah, I think, and we'll talk about this more, I think, as we go on. But people that are jealous are, they come across as angry at the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been started just as something so small. Um, they're jealous of purses. I mean, it could be monetary things. It could be something with kids. They wish their kids were a certain way, or maybe they wish they had kids, or they were married. It could be like literally anything of
Yeah.
jealousy. And for some reason, I know it talks about this in Scripture, but it's like the most tangible thing when it comes to Scripture. Of if you're jealous, it like completely rots your bones. So it's not just the exterior, but it's like a cancer that is rotting on the inside, and you can't see it until your heart is shown. Uh, and as soon as I wanted to mention this, and this will bring back some of the old people that grew up in church, older people, not real old, but there's an episode of Veggie Tales. If you guys remember Veggie Tales,
You know, what's depressing right now is the fact that you're saying that people that know Veggie Tales are older.
no,
That's so depressing right now. Like,
when I say old, just older like they grew up in the church. Veggie Tales
right,
out in the
right.
'90s, early '90s, and there was an episode called "The Rumor Weed," and it was I think it was called that. Yeah, and it was just about like a thing of gossip, and uh, how big it grew like real quick, and like you didn't even pay attention to it, and it just grew and grew and grew, and before you knew it, you couldn't do anything about it. And yeah, it was talking about gossip, but it really was talking about just sin in general. And I think jealousy is that one that will absolutely just wreck your life so quickly.
Yeah.
No joy in anything if you just allow just like a small thing just to enter into your life.
Yeah, I think Dave had an illustration that I thought was good, and I'm going to take it a step further. He was talking about his own life and things he had dealt with. By the way, just
I saw it. I'm
Renee
excited.
Basham said thanks,
Yeah.
and Rhea, my wife, said she didn't think she was old yet, and Renee didn't think she was old either. But apparently, you've just made half the church old now. So,
Those comments.
but one of the things that's really interesting to me is this thing he talked about where he was working this summer job, and he had to train a guy who was going to step up into a job, and this guy was actually going to make more money than he was going to make. And I started thinking about it, and I've actually talked to people who have experienced this. So imagine you're in a job and you've been working there for 15, 20 years. You're actually getting raises every single year. Your pay is good. Then they've got a new kid that comes in. He's younger. He's just getting started. You're training him. You're actually going to be his supervisor when he gets done with his training. And you happen to be going to do something one day, and you realize that you see his check stub, and you realize that check stub is a lot bigger than yours. Then there's the door. There's the opening for jealousy to step in and be an issue. And I think for a lot of us, we have to know what those doors are,
Yeah.
and learn not to even walk into them. because like what you said, it's like a cancer. Cancer never starts big. It's not like you have a huge tumor in your body to start with. It starts small and then it grows. And so I think it's really important that we as Christians, when we see a situation come up like that, and I would almost guarantee there's somebody in our church who has experienced something like that. But how do you close that door before you have a chance to walk through it? I think that's a big deal. And I think what Dave nailed down yesterday, or I guess not yesterday, but on Sunday, was this idea that the cure for jealousy is celebration.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. I think it's absolutely huge. And I think it's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday I meet with Travis Salee and Daryl Jordan, and usually Benson Gregory shows up at some point, and the three of us have coffee and we talk about life and the church and just whatever when we're there. And I look, and Travis has a brand new, well, not brand new, but he has a 2019 computer, this really nice decked out computer. And I realize it's a lot like my computer. And so we start talking. I find out that he paid 1/3 the price that I paid for my computer. 1/3 the price, and it's the exact same computer. And now I bought it over a year ago, but even resale on that computer is more than twice what he paid for it. Yeah. And so I asked him the specs, and we're going through it all. I was like, wow, that's just like my computer. And he jokingly looks at Daryl and says, oh, look at John over there realizing that I got this computer that he's got and blah, 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 blah. And I just smiled real big at him. I said, nah, dude, I listened to the sermon on Sunday. I was like, I'm celebrating with you. And we just had a lot of fun with that. But I mean, how easy would it have been in that situation for me to be like, wait a second, I had to pay how much for this thing and you got it for that price? Yeah. But I had to make a conscious choice in that moment not to open that door and walk through it. Mm-hmm. I had to keep that door shut and not even go near it. And instead, I needed to be excited for Travis. Travis has started his own business, and that computer is going to be an incredible tool for him. And he was able to get it at a great price. Why do you think it's so hard for people to celebrate with each other when good fortune happens?
I think that's a question that we're going to ask for now into eternity. I think it's built into our DNA from the start, but even America, it's probably really bad. I don't know other cultures as well, current cultures around the United States as much, obviously, as I do the United States. But the pursuit of happiness is very much connected to the stuff that we have and we get to do. And when somebody else gets to do something or experience or receive something that we don't have, I think people take it as, well, they experienced happiness and I want that happiness.
Yeah.
When that's probably, I would say that's a really bad way of looking at it. I think the American way of the pursuit of happiness is supposed to be an individualistic thing when we make it a all-encompassing, like a community thing. And it's kind of hard to separate those things because we push community so much as Americans and as the church, especially. And you're supposed to live life together and you want to experience things together. And when it should be the experience of, oh, I'm going to be happy because they're happy, it becomes, well, I didn't get to experience that, and I'm frustrated that I didn't get to experience that. And I think that's how it starts. What do you think, John? Do you think that's true, or do you have something else in mind?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I was actually thinking, as I was going through everything for this morning, I was actually thinking about the fact that there are so many countries that have so much less, and yet they seem so much happier. You know, and when you don't want, you tend to not need either. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, it's this whole thing of, I think here in America, it's like we've got to have a certain kind of car, or we got to have a certain kind of house, or we need to have a job that pays this, or, you know, we want our kids to have this. We want our kids to do this. And I think right now people are running themselves ragged trying to keep up with each other more so than at any point in my lifetime that I've seen. I just see parents that are worn out, and I ask them what they've been doing, and it's like their kids are involved in 812 different things, and I don't know. I don't want to say that it's wrong to have your kids in things, because I got my daughter's in dance. My son's going to be doing some stuff in the next year. I want to get them involved in things too, but I think we have this like keeping up with the Joneses mindset in the U.S. That's
probably, exactly.
really scary. Like it can really mess with people, and you kind of, like I said, there's doors you got to close, and that's a door that we got to close. We got to quit trying to keep up with everybody. I think we need to be more focused on what we need, like genuinely need, and not worry about so much about what other people want or need. I love it when I find out people in our church are able to score a really cool house for a really good price, or they get that new job promotion. I remember when you bought your house. Your house is fantastic, by the way.
I got lucky.
Your house is fantastic. I say blessed. I don't believe in luck. So I think God blessed you on that house. But no, it fantastic house, and you got a killer deal on it. And I remember thinking when you got that, I was like, man, that is awesome. And then thinking to myself, man, I wish that would have been for sale a couple years ago. But not so much like out of jealousy, but like, man, what a score. You know what I mean? Like that's just incredible. So I think I'll go ahead.
You brought up something that I struggle with quite a bit. I wouldn't say the jealousy part. No, that's not. Currently, it's a lot better. Obviously, you go in and out of seasons of different things. Now, when Kaylee and I were trying to have kids, the jealousy thing was pretty high, I'd say so. But currently, the whole you don't want to cause your friend to sin thing, and this is not the right way. I'm saying this because this is not healthy, and this is not the right way to think about things. Is where something good happens to you, and you don't want to share it so other people can be excited with you, because you don't want other people to be jealous, and you're not doing it that's not a pride thing. That's like, I don't want to go through like you're fearful that somebody might react negatively to the good thing that you just received. And some things are like awesome. Like you should be excited about it, but you don't want to talk about it because somebody else might be going through something that will just bring up bad memories, or they have jealousy problems. And you're like, I don't even want to deal with that. So we've had, just in our experience, there's probably multiple people who are going through having kids, like issues with that.
Right.
There's plenty of those in our church and around our church, and friends, ministry friends I went to college with. And Kaylee and I had a conversation. She's like, I'm scared to talk about that we got pregnant because there's people that have struggled with it. And we know whenever somebody brought up the fact that they got pregnant and we were still struggling with it, we got frustrated. And we didn't want to bring that feeling of, and it all comes from immaturity, but to somebody else. And when Dave was talking about that is immediately what I started thinking of.
Yeah. Do you think that because of this competing mindset that a lot of people have, do you think that is a huge, huge block for celebration?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's both sides, because there's people that don't want people to be jealous because they're looking after them. And then there's the people that are just going to be jealous no matter what happens. So there's like these double negative things fighting against each other.
Well, and I think it's sad because I want people to be able to celebrate when they get pregnant. I want people to be able to celebrate when they score a new job. I don't want, it's pretty sad that you can't come to church and celebrate that stuff. Like that should not even be a thing.
Yeah, I know.
If there's one place where we should be able to go, it should be the church. And that's why I'm so glad Dave said what he said.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think that needs to be a culture shift in the church, not just Catalyst, but any church.
Yes.
Of you don't want to get yourself stuck into a place where you're not allowed to celebrate the good things. Like,
Yeah.
if there's one place where everybody in your church, or one place where everybody you know is going to celebrate with you, it should be in the church.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
let me throw this out to everybody who's watching, because there's about 10 of you on here right now.
Nice.
What do you think? What do you think are some things that cause people to get jealous? What are some things that you guys think are blockades to people being able to celebrate? Are there situations you've suffered through or struggled with that you want to share? Leave those in the comments, and
Yeah.
we can talk about those. We've still got, about 25, 30 minutes that we can talk about this stuff, and want to open that up to comments. I'm going to give a few minutes here for Rob to kind of talk about Elevate Church, and then maybe we'll go through some of these comments and talk a little bit. But why don't you tell us about Elevate, where you guys are at, kind of a little bit more of the vision of it, because really on that one Sunday, you got to tell a little bit, but we're limited to time on Sundays. So why don't you share with us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we're still at the we're right before we're doing some fundraising right now, but we're right before that phase. So we're getting all of our paperwork put in. It's hard. It's kind of an awkward stage when it comes to donations. We're good on donations. We can receive a lot, but there's certain people that donate through a certain way, like through businesses, or through different organizations. So it's not the individual person, but it's like organizations wanted to donate to another church. And with our paperwork, and because of COVID and stuff, we are just waiting for it to be approved. All of our paperwork has been put in. And so we have our business. We actually are an actual business. So we have our
That's cool.
EIN number. So what did you say?
So that's really cool.
Yeah. So we have all that. We have a bank account. We can receive donations from individual people. When it comes to fundraising from other churches, we can't, like, honestly, in good conscience, like, fully do it, because I don't want there to be a weird thing where another business gets in trouble because they gave us money, but then the government's like, well, that doesn't count. So we're
Right.
probably just a couple weeks away. It was supposed to be done already, but due to the government being consumed with other ideas, it's taking a little bit. It's taking a little bit longer than
That's a
expected.
great way to put that.
I don't know. There's a billion different. I didn't want to go through the list. There's a bunch of different things that are going on.
Right.
Rightly so. Like, it is that season. So we are still planning, and we will do this. A lot of people ask me this question. In January, we will look for a location in South Lexington. We haven't done it yet because, once again, we're not going to go to a business and say, hey, we're going to start in August. We're going to start meeting in August. Can you hold your place of business until August?
Right.
No
right.
business is going to do that. They're going to be like, well, no, if somebody else offers us to rent, we're going to give it to them. So we're going to look in January. Fortunately and unfortunately, there actually are a lot of places that we could rent right now because of COVID. So a lot of businesses aren't doing well. They're shutting down, which is very sad. And I hate that. But there's also a lot more locations
Right.
for us to potentially do it. And we're looking at, there's two different options. There's something that Catalyst did, which I thought was a great idea, where they rented 1 day a week for their church service. Now, they did rent an office building as well, but they just rented East High. They only had to pay one price per week.
Right.
Or we can do what Catalyst did when they started renting in the industrial building, where it was no longer just 1 day a week, but it was every single day, and had their offices at that place. Those are two different options that we can do. And we're going to make sure that we choose the best for the situation that we're at.
And like up front, I mean, I've looked at your website and that kind of thing. Up front, it looks like you've got 3 people that are going to be quote unquote staff people at your church.
Yeah. We mentioned that if you weren't there on Sunday or you haven't watched that video, we mentioned that there's 3 like people that are going to be considered like on staff ministers. So there's me. I'm going to be the lead minister. There's Andrew Dawson, or we call him Drew Dawson. He's going to be the connections minister. And he's currently at Jessamine Christian right down the road. And then we have Lisa Sayre, who is currently a member here at Catalyst, is on the worship team. She leads worship often on Sunday mornings. She's going to lead our our worship ministry. So two of us, me and Drew, are going to be full-time staff members, and Lisa is going to be a part-time person. She still has a full-time job at Sullivan's, doing a great job there. And so right now we got a pretty good team with us, and that's pretty exciting.
Well, I know we're excited for you guys with everything that's going on with that. And one of the things that's kind of exciting for me, it's not just the fact that you're planting the church and Lisa's planting the church, but Drew is a former student of mine when I was a youth minister in Cynthiana. So it's just kind of like, it's exciting for me all around because Catalyst is helping you with planting this church. You're a personal friend and our youth minister here. Lisa, I've known her since she was a high schooler when she was working at Bluegrass Christian Camp. And Drew, obviously, since he was like a middle schooler.
I think you had him in elementary and then the first year of middle school, right?
Actually, it might have been. Now, I think I had him for a couple years of middle school. Yeah. Okay. He was in the ever loved teen choir. Not a big fan of those. So anyways, we had a really cool comment on here from Renee Basham. She said, the baby thing was big for me too. I had a miscarriage in 2014, and it was hard to hear about people who were easily getting pregnant. It was especially hard to hear when people didn't want to be pregnant and got so anyway. I've since grown, and I celebrate all babies. And boy, there are plenty in our church. That is the truth. There are a lot of babies in this church. And if you didn't catch it earlier, you signed on later, we need more nursery workers. So if you're somebody who is a nursery, likes babies, and you like to hold babies and cuddle babies and play with babies, we've got the opportunity for you. Rob is one of our people that has made that happen for us. So, there are definitely babies, and we need people to watch them. So if you're interested in doing that, make sure you get a hold of Jenny Ross here at the church.
Yes,
and, it's so easy with the jealousy thing. Sean Ely says, in my opinion, God's people often struggle with the idea of joyfulness, sharing joyfulness. Joyfulness does not necessarily mean makes me happy. That's an interesting take on that. That's a really interesting take on that. What are your thoughts on that, Rob, when you read that?
Sharing joyfulness does not necessarily make me happy. I was going to bring this up, and it goes with both of these before you asked me to share about Elevate, which was really cool. I appreciate that. You see in the transition in the healing process, so you have jealousy, which is an emotion. It's an emotional based, it can lead to anger. And then you have being joyful, which joyful is not necessarily an emotion, but a choice.
Right.
So you go from emotion driven to choice driven, because having joy in your life, and this goes with what Sean talks about, it's a decision. It's not something that naturally brews in you. It is something that is a decision that comes out of following Christ. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very, very important for us to understand, because a lot of people, it's like, well, I don't feel joyful. I don't feel this. I don't feel that. It's like, no, you don't feel it. You make a decision to be joyful so that your heart will follow.
And I think love is the same way. It's one of those things that's you choose to love.
Yes.
And you choose to be joyful, and you choose to rejoice with people when things happen. You've seen the sign in my office. I've got a sign that sits, I can look at it right here. It says, make decisions against yourself.
Yep.
I learned a long time ago, if all I ever do is focus on stuff that makes me happy or focus on stuff that I find easy, then I'm not trying, and I'm not growing, and I'm not getting better. And so to be joyful, you really have to make the attempt to be joyful. It's not something that you expect to happen to you. It's something that you have to willingly choose to do for others.
Yep. Yes. I agree. Can I say a side comment real quick?
Absolutely.
This isn't to do with what we're talking about. We've gotten a lot of texts and messages saying that our audio is either I'm too quiet or John's too quiet, or we're trying to figure out. Just a little context. I said because a siren just went by. The way that our mics are set up, we have to fight the battle of picking up certain things, either echo or there's sirens right outside, like just went by in front of our church.
Yeah.
So we're trying to fight that. We'll get better as we go on. So we appreciate you guys actually caring about what we sound like.
Yeah. I mean, I would figure there'd been a few people who would be like, "Hey, man, your face looks really bad," but I think that's normal. So, yeah. So, anyways, I think we're gonna get off here in just a second, but just some closing thoughts. I've been a part of a lot of churches. I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of churches, and having worked in a lot of churches, I have seen jealousy literally destroy churches, split them down the middle. You'd see a new church plant that is not like the one that you're doing, but you see a church plant that is actually a split from a church. And I think it's interesting how many people, hey, by the way, my wife said she kind of likes my face. That makes me happy. But you see a lot of church plants that are not church plants, they're splits.
Yeah.
And they wonder why the church never really progresses. And I don't believe that God blesses a church that deals in jealousy. I just don't believe that God blesses people who are constantly jealous. I think we have to get past that. You know, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Nowhere in the midst of that is there jealousy. And we're real big in this church about show the fruit of the Spirit. If the fruit of the Spirit is evident in your life, then God is going to bless your life and you're going to bless others. And like you said, with joy being a choice that you make, you choose to bless others through your joyfulness. People aren't to bless you so that you have joyfulness. You are to bless others by being joyful.
Yes, I agree. I 100% agree. I'm glad you brought up the fruit of the Spirit, because the fruit of the Spirit should be a byproduct of fruit is something that comes from the vine or from the heart of the plant. It's something that somebody else can grab onto and what you can see. So if you see an apple tree, it's an apple tree by the fruit that is producing. So if a tree has apples on it, you're like, oh, it's a healthy tree that is producing fruit. So if you want somebody to know that you're a Christian, they should be able to see that you're a Christian by your fruit.
That's the truth.
So if you want people to notice a change in your life, the fruit of the Spirit that John just mentioned is the way that you need to live your life.
100%. Well, man, thanks for being on this today. This is the first time doing this, so we're expecting there to be some technical difficulties to start off with, but this is a new world for us at Catalyst. We, for a long time, did what other churches do. We had Sunday morning church, we had small groups, we had all these things, but we never really took advantage of the fact that we could have these middle of the week kind of conversations. So we'll be doing these every Wednesday at noon. It's intentionally at noon. That way, you guys, if you're eating lunch, you can just pull your phone out and just kind of get in here and just tap away and be a part of it with us. So this is going to be an every week noon thing. And most weeks, Rob's going to be on here with us. But there are going to be some weeks he can't because Rob does these church planning meetings on Wednesdays with a group out of Seattle. Is that right?
It's out of Oregon.
Oregon, that's right.
Portland is like the heart of it.
Yeah, the northwest either way. It probably rains a lot
there that are different than us.
Yep, definitely. Well, man, thanks again for being part of the live stream today. And for everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. We're so glad you guys were here. If you have any questions about any future live streams, be sure to post those on Facebook and tune in next Wednesday for live stream number 2.